It's all right. It's all right. We move. We move. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Whenever, however, you're interacting with this, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching after the fact, or whether you're listening to a podcast version somewhere. Obviously, we're still getting used to our setup in the building, so please let me know if there's anything going on technically. Hopefully, you can hear us all right and all that jazz. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. As you can tell, Eamon is not here. He's having a lovely day out. So I'm joined by Dr. Ezekiel. Remember, we have a doctor in the house. So I'm not saying he knows everything, but he doesn't not know anything. Do you know what I mean?
I know something.
Yeah, exactly. You just put the mic.
Okay, right.
There we go. Okay, so let the people know, how have you been? How's your week been?
I'm great, thank you. I've had a wonderful week. And I was so happy because I was pushing writing this article I was going to submit for a journal.
Yeah.
And I was very glad when I got an email that said I would push the date, the submission date, to the first of November from 1st of August. So, yeah.
It's like getting an extension at uni.
Some breathing space.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good to know. So, guys, let us know how's your week been. I know for some people, it's the beginning of holiday season. For most of the rest of us, it's not. But we're not jealous or anything. We're just, we hope if you are on holiday, enjoy. I know Marilyn's just recently come back from holiday.
Yeah.
Putting on the steps, she said. Putting on the steps, getting like 15 to like 25, anywhere in that. So, she's covered it for at least the next 4 days. She just wants to
4 days or not 4 years. Okay.
Yeah. It could be years, but I think it's likely to only be that.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know how you're doing, and as always, if there's anything that you want us to actually talk through and address on here, whether it's about the Bible or about topical stuff, just let us know, and we'd be more than happy to have a chat through some stuff. We didn't really rate it, but out of 10, where would you put your week?
I'll put about 8.
8?
Yeah.
What's your scale? Because obviously Eamon is a 10, is an average week.
My scale is up to 10. Doesn't go
Right,
beyond
okay.
10. So
That's fine.
Yeah, I was pleased because there was something I wanted to do for a long time. You procrastinate, that word.
Yeah.
So one of the days this week, Thursday, I'm gonna do is actually it was a Wednesday, so I just went boom, 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 did what I need to do, jumped in the car and drove 4 hours, and then drove back 4 hours, and that was it. It was done. So I felt really good.
Nice. Oh yes, of course, yeah.
I wanted to do this for a long time, but I have done it.
Yeah.
Great.
Good.
And how was your week?
I would say my week, I would give it a 7.
Okay.
I reckon, because it wasn't a good week. Like it wasn't like a bunch of good things happened, but it wasn't the weeks that I've had the last month. 6 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
Which, like, there've been some really highs, but there've been some super lows. So this was like the first week of like just normal life. Like nothing crazy is going on. Mercy's away at work, so that's the only big shift, and she's like 5 hours behind because she's in Canada. So just figuring out how to interact in that
space,
and like not being super bored at home. Like, what should I do with myself? But other than that, doing well. Do you know what I mean? It's a normal week.
Good.
I'm happy. Nothing crazy is going on. And sometimes those are the kind of weeks you need. You just need just a normal week.
I was very pleased when somebody in the meeting said we're trampling down. We want to tear down COVID.
Yeah.
Because I was surprised that Joe Biden has tested positive.
He has, yeah.
3 days of being clear, and you just think, no, come on. Give a guy a break, you know what I mean? This is way too much. And, So we'll see that completely torn down.
100%.
Yeah.
And also make sure monkeypox doesn't do anything over
That's
here.
right.
Got no
That's
no
right.
time for monkeypox at all. Don't even come in this vicinity.
Come on, people, we're intercessors.
Yeah,
Break it down.
exactly,
Break it
exactly.
down.
So today we are going, as the topic says, Jesus the caller. I wasn't really sure how to phrase this idea. That's as good as I can get it. So if anyone watching live has a better idea, feel free to put it in the comments. But it'll become clear as we go along, I reckon. Once I do this first verse anyway. So Matthew 16, 24 to 25. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it." And this is kind of what I mean by Jesus the caller. Is here he's talking to people who are already his disciples, as he says but he still gives them the line of, hey, I know you've been following me. Some of you've been listening. Some of you not listening as much. Whatever. You say you're my disciples, but whoever out of you who wants to be a disciple, this is what it actually means. It's not all the things you might think it means. Like, I'm telling you the definition of what being my disciple means. Number one, deny yourself. And then after you deny yourself, take up your cross. And after you take up your cross, follow me. And then, he raises the stakes even more, because then he's like, whoever wants to save their life will lose it. And whoever wants to lose their life, whoever loses their life for me will find it. And it reminded me of what we spoke about on Thursday, of the difference between spiritual wisdom and human wisdom. Because human wisdom would say, first of all, why would you deny yourself? You can't deny yourself. That's like causing all this internal strife. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, right at the moment in society, it's all about like accepting yourself, do whatever pleases you.
Work
like
on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And whereas Jesus from the off is like, no, first, before you even do anything, get rid of yourself. Yeah, deny yourself, and then pick up your cross and follow me. And I think that interested me in that Jesus's approach to, I don't know if it's attracting people or interacting with people. I guess his method of discipleship wasn't quite what we might think of it as. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think generally, if we're trying to introduce someone to Jesus or bring someone along, generally a lot of Western church interaction, I'll put it that way, is a lot more about meeting the person where they're at, which is important. Walking through with them slowly, which is important. And I don't think any of those things are wrong, but I just thought it's interesting that when Jesus makes a call, he's not leaving any ambiguity in it. Do you know what I mean? You can't be like, "Oh, Jesus, I totally misunderstood. Like, I thought you said this, but you actually said that." He's like, "I'm very clear. Here's how you be my disciple. So anything out of this means that you're not. And if you're in these parameters, then it means that you are." How do you read this?
This is very interesting because some time back, one of the guys was in another church asked me a question about what you think of when God says, love your neighbor as yourself, as a summary of the law. Part of the summary of the law. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I think I understood what his actual question was, because when I started answering, I said, first, he's not saying you must love yourself first. No, he assumes.
That's true.
This is not an instruction that you don't love yourself, so you need to go and love yourself first, and then you go and love your neighbor. No, it's actually a readjustment of priorities. It's not me first. No. It's that the way I already love myself, the way I already take care of myself, I must now apply that to somebody else first. And then that can, so there's this misunderstanding of, and this can be the problem of reading the scriptures without connecting the context.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the one I've read is Matthew 22, and clearly in the other one, Jesus is saying, if you want to come and follow me, this is what you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
These are the three things that you must go through. You must have it done to.
Yeah.
And also, there's another one that we have a problem with. It's the parables, Matthew 13.
Mm-hmm.
Really stretching to 14. So people think the parables, Jesus was using the parables to make it easy for people to understand.
Yeah.
But this is not true.
But no, it pretty much says like the opposite of that.
It says exactly. I'm actually trying to hide because why are you talking in parables all the time?
I don't understand. Can you explain, please? Like every day.
Every time,
Can you explain?
every time the meeting finishes, you go back and say, "So what was that? What was that sermon about?"
I love that metaphor you used. But yeah, what is it?
How can we be enlightened? So he is not trying to make it easy for people to understand the gospel. He's trying to make it difficult.
Yeah.
And this is very challenging for our mindsets now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he's trying to make it
It's
difficult.
like, why would you make it
hard.
Why would you not make it the most palatable way of interaction, isn't it?
Yeah. But actually, he wants to make it harder because I think you're going to talk about this when we start looking at the text, but he doesn't want, what's the word, followers who are not really followers.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a desire, a hunger, a passion, a drive.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, Luke, kind of segueing on from what you just said, Luke 9, verse 57 to 62, a bit of a bigger chunk, but that's fine. So, as they were walking along the road, a man said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes and dens and birds, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." He said to another, "Follow me." But he replied, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go proclaim the kingdom of God." Still another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family." Jesus replied, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Which to me, like, this is kind of a wild scripture. I don't think that. So I think if Jesus was, let's say, instead of choosing the time period that they chose, that God was like, hey, let's do, what is it? Let's do the launch of Jesus' ministry is the 1st of July, 2022.
Yeah.
So, like, he's a month into some of his stuff. He may have said this by now or said some similar stuff or called people, etc., called disciples or whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people I think the percentage of followers of Jesus would be smaller now if Jesus gave this as the tow line. Do you know what I mean? Than it was then. Yeah, I think because what he's saying, the first person, he says your accommodation or your financial stability isn't guaranteed with me. And he's obviously saying this to the person because even though this person is claiming that he'll go anywhere, Jesus knows, no, you have something about your own security. Yeah, you want to be secure in where your house is, where your money's coming from, where everything's coming from. And life with me isn't, the 2 beds semi-detached, whatever state. It might be, but it's not guaranteed. And so, he pretty much he doesn't dismiss the person, but in what he's saying, you can tell that he is saying you're not capable of being what a disciple actually is.
Well, I don't know if he's saying you're not capable, but I think, I don't know, but he raises it. So here's what we would do, isn't it? What would you want to do? If someone comes and says, "I'll follow you," verse 57.
Mm.
Yeah. So Jesus doesn't lower
Yeah, he keeps the standard.
He actually seems to raise it.
Yeah.
So, and then he says to another person, "Follow me." And then guy says, "Let me go and bury my." And even that one, Jesus still holds. He doesn't say, "Oh yeah, okay, I understand." Yeah, but the bereavement.
People are saying it's a bit echoey, so
okay, yeah. It's not like Jesus says, "Oh yeah, you have had a bereavement, so I need to go and I need to let you go and have some leave days to go and sort that out." And then the other one says, "I want to go say bye to my family," and even that, no one puts a hand to the plow and looks back. It's fit for service in the kingdom of God. And one of the things that I think we have to think about a lot as a church in the West is how can we remain open to people becoming Christians without compromising the standard to which people have to live to in order for them to be in the kingdom. I think that's a big question for me, is how do we welcome people and how do we win souls and allow people to be saved and come in while at the same time maintaining this standard or keeping the standard as it should be. Yeah. I think that's a big deal that in today's world.
Yeah, and I think that it's this is basically in stark contrast to how different types of churches approach having people in the congregation.
Yeah.
Is, hey, don't like, and I understand the intention, because it's not wrong, but I think that, as you're saying, Jesus' standard of what makes someone who wants to be my disciple a disciple is uncompromising. That's probably the best way to put it, isn't it? Yes. Jesus has an uncompromising standard.
Yeah.
Because then he says to this other person from verse 59, follow me. So the call goes out, and the person says, first let me go bury my father.
Yeah.
And Jesus says to him, let the dead bury their own dead, but you go proclaim the kingdom. And that sounds like...
Yeah, it's just like,
It's like, what...
Are you denying me bereavement leave?
Yeah. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then verse 61, another one says, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go say goodbye to my family. Then Jesus replied, no one puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. So in the kingdom of God, there's a level of dedication, I guess, or zeal or passion,
dedication,
which
commitment,
which means that you are right for the job.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, if you're not committed, but you're saying that do you know what I mean? You're not committed, but you're saying you're committed, you'll end up in your life will be even harder than it should be.
Yeah.
Because when you meet tough situations, you won't be prepared. But then also it's like, is this worth it? Do you know what I mean? Like a lot, you'll crumble for a lot less because you're like, hey, I know 20 years ago, I was like, hey, Jesus, this seems like a good idea, but, I really want to get a 4-bed house, and at the moment, I'm still in a 2-bed terrace. Like, this isn't a vision of my life that I had planned.
Yeah.
And this kind of reminds me of like Lot's wife is a good example of this, of how Jesus is, he doesn't really promote like looking at the past.
Yeah.
He's very much like keep moving forward.
Focus, yeah.
And if it's all about focus, isn't it? If your focus is, man, I remember when back in my day,
when I was
praying. Man, uni was so good. Like I had all these opportunities. Like that's wasted time in the kingdom, because you end up missing what that is. And I was just struck by like the standard of the call, because we wouldn't really say to someone that, I don't think we would. I'm not sure. I've not said it to anyone. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I've not said. I changed. So this was kind of how I changed my discipleship style or whatever.
Okay.
Is I used to be very massagey, very you do you at your own pace. Do you know what I mean? Very hey, we come up together on that.
Yeah.
And then I remember James Aubrey said to me, one of the worst things you can do is give your time to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Because what it means is that you're missing giving your time to the right people, but you're also wasting your energy. So even when you're finished with these people and you go to the right people, you don't have enough.
Yeah.
Which means that the right people don't grow the way they would have, and the wrong people just go anyway.
Yeah.
So then what happened was I started, I would say I probably became a bit more like this, where I'd be meeting up with someone and they'd be saying, hey, I want to do this for Jesus. And I'd be like, cool, here's what you have to do. If you mean what you're saying, you want to follow Jesus in what you're saying, then you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You got to turn up.
Yeah.
And then interestingly enough, I think 20% of the people I said that to carried that through. So what it showed me then was, this is a legitimate, this is a real separator thing of if you lay down the call the way the call is, it really will sift through the people who want Jesus.
Yes.
And the people who are like, I didn't realize this was the type of place that you...
That's not what I was buying into.
Yeah, exactly, What do you think about this section?
Yeah. I was saying on Thursday that one of the things that has become clear to me in recent times is that people make time for what's important to them.
Yeah.
If I want to know what's important to you, there are two things I need to look at. I need to look at your bank account.
Yeah.
So you spend on what's important to you.
Yeah.
You cannot deny, if a payment is going through your bank every week, you cannot deny that that's not an important expense.
You can't be like, where did that come from?
I don't understand why that's... No, that's important to you. Because you're spending your money on it. And then the second thing, which is the first thing in this case, is your time. So if you find that there's no time for God in your life, this is not, it's not to beat you up, it's not to criticize anybody. It's just, listen, this is a simple way of saying, maybe God is not important to you.
Yeah.
So because you have time for work.
And no one really wants to be wants to say yes to that question. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no one wants to sit there and be like, no, Jesus isn't actually important to me.
But the truth is, this is where you can self-assess. And what Jesus is saying in this, if I am important to you, then I must be of first importance.
Yeah.
I must be number one. I must be number one in your money, in your time, in your what, I must be number one. So people make time for what's important to them.
Yeah.
And so if this standard is too high, it suggests that this is not important to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so, and I mean, we make commitments to work, Sometimes we're bosses who are not really very good and they give us tough conditions, but we go. You make commitments to study and you grovel through.
Yeah.
Grovel through.
Either one, both of them at the same time.
All of them. You go through all these things
and
until you satisfy the standard that's required. You just have to do that. You give it the time that it should have. So, one of the ways that, and I think what Jesus is saying in all of this is, so your accommodation is not guaranteed, and you can't, your family comes second. And even just going to say bye to your family, that comes second. I mean, this is a very high standard. Now, sometimes people think, well, Jesus said family is important, and we know that. Yes? Mm-hmm. So why is it sounding as if he's saying don't bury your father? Mm-hmm. But this is So you must love me, and in comparison, your love for me, Jesus says, must be so much that your love for your family looks as if it's hatred.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the standard to which you're committed to me must be so high, but you must still love your family.
Yeah.
But the way you love your family and express it, it's secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also it kind of addresses the very human thing of like let me come when I'm ready. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it, but like the way I read this, when the people are kind of, so like when that guy's like, oh, let me go bury my dad, or like Jesus giving the idea of like, oh, anyone who looks back isn't fit for service, or the person who's like, oh, let me follow you, and Jesus is like, hey, I'm all this stuff. I see it as that's him addressing, that, I don't know how to describe it, that idea of like, let me get my stuff in order, and then I'll do whatever you want. So like the call of God comes to your life, Jesus gives you direction, and you're like, this is definitely from God. I need to sort this out. But first, I need to do this. I've got my work contract. I need to sort that out. And then in a few months' time, I've got this thing. And then, after that, I've got this thing.
Yeah.
And so it can get very much like, Jesus, I'm coming.
I'm coming, yeah.
But like, first I need to like sort this out. And I think that's part of the attitude that Jesus is addressing. Is like, this isn't a secondary occupation.
No.
This is a primary life focus, which is a challenging thing because that knowing where you lie on that barometer is like, it can humble you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be like, am I really at that place where I'm saying that he's number one? And as we talked about on Thursday, it comes down to love the Lord your God with all your might, all your soul, all your
and love your neighbors and stuff.
Yeah. So that first one of like love God before anything else.
Yeah.
And if there's others, as you're saying, if we sift through and see, oh, in this life Jesus isn't priority.
Yeah.
That means that whatever is now your idol.
Yes.
That's your God.
Yes.
Which when you kind of go down that route, it makes sense why Jesus makes the call the way that it is. Because otherwise there'd be a lot more like inbreeding of like top of who's the top. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like, oh yeah, like I'm following Jesus, but I also really love money.
It's like
and I also like
Greek, isn't it? A pantheon of gods.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
With the pantheon of gods.
Yeah, and like maybe he's Zeus, but maybe he's not Zeus. I don't know.
Maybe it's Hercules.
Yeah. So okay, let's finish off with. Well,
I was going to say something on. I don't know what you're going on to. But
oh yeah, go on.
We traveled recently to Zambia.
Yeah.
And I always reflect on this once I get on the plane. I mean, you're committed, man. You're committed. Once they close the doors, you go on the runway, and you're, taxiing to get up, and you're up there.
Yeah.
You are committed for 12 hours or whatever hours you're going. You're stuck there.
And if you try to get out, there's serious consequences.
Well, first of all,
you could kill the whole plane.
It would be a very bad experience for you if you decide to be half in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not going to be a pleasant
You're like clinging onto the wing, like, I still want to get there, I think.
A finger outside.
Yeah.
This is going to be painful for you. Yeah. But also you risk everybody else on the plane.
Yeah.
And it's... it can be an oversimplification of the situation, but it makes the point how committed we are.
Yeah.
You get in and that's it. And you haven't checked the guy's credentials even. So, but that's what Jesus is saying. It's a similar thing, commitment that he's asking us to make.
Yeah. And this is pretty much it's more than the first one. This is kind of the grouping of verses which I read, which kind of prompted this.
Okay.
Which is Romans 12, verse 1 to 3. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, perfect will. For by the grace given to me, I say to each one of you, don't think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. So I read this, and the way that it's separated, and this is, I'm really interested now in trying to find a New Testament that doesn't have any divisions in, and is just this is the letter that was written. Here's the epistle that was, do you know what I mean? Like, just as is. Because there's a separation which comes, where is it?
Verse 2 and 3.
Yeah, so verse 3 is under its own new heading now. But I just read it as, hang on, let me just read Paul's idea as this is what he's saying. So he starts off with what is a pretty strong call, kind of in line with what Jesus said. Offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. And this is what got me, is that this is your true and proper worship. So the only right way for us to worship God is in a sacrificial way.
Self-giving,
if we're not sacrificing of ourselves in some way, then we're not really worshiping God. And I was just like, no, that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, the history of God and his people, pre-law, in the law, post-law, like the whole way that he interacts with people is in a sacrificial relationship. And we don't really talk about how sacrifice is a part of our life in like post, like New Testament Christianity. There's not a lot of talk of sacrifice. There's not a lot of talk about, all of that kind of language. But here Paul is saying actually the key to worshiping God in spirit and in truth is by you being a living sacrifice, which means I don't know whether it would be that you're living and you're a sacrifice, or that your sacrifice itself is living. I kind of like the idea that your sacrifice is living. Do you know what I mean? Like your sacrifice is something that happens regularly enough. That your sacrifice has. I don't know how to. The way that my mind is working is because I was thinking about it.
Do you know what I thought about this? It's a while ago, but I thought about a living sacrifice. As in, this is a juicy, costly sacrifice. It's living because it's precious to me. And it's a sacrifice, and I'm giving up something it's living. So it's easy to give a dead, if you think of the dead, there's when they used to sacrifice animals. It's very easy to sacrifice a dead animal. But to sacrifice an animal that's alive, this is precious. The life is precious to me. So,
this is an asset.
So it's that sort of self-giving. I'm trying to think whether I should venture into this at all. But part of my work this last couple of weeks or 3 weeks or so has been looking at a passage in Revelation 15 and trying to talk about how John pictures nations being converted in Revelation. One of the big things there, here is talking about proper worship, your true and proper worship. Living sacrifice is true and proper worship. But in Revelation, living sacrifice is actually the true witness. So you cannot worship God unless you offer your body as a living sacrifice. But you also cannot witness. You cannot witness unless you are a living sacrifice. So you, this is not something that you choose for one side of one aspect of Christianity. To me, I think it's going to be something that pervades everything. But you are making the point that you were reading that, and then you said you saw this separation between that?
So you offer yourself as a living sacrifice, and then do not conform.
Yeah, to the pattern of this world.
Yeah, and then the separation was verse 3.
Yeah.
But for me, I read that as this is what he's saying, and he's not put a separation in there. So let me just read it.
Yeah.
So then verse 3 becomes related to how you live your life as a living sacrifice, which part of it is don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to.
Be humble, mate.
But rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed or given to each of you.
Yeah.
So it's not like this self-deprecation, a self-bashing thing of like, oh, I'm horrible.
No.
I know I've messed up. No. I know I'm messing up. I know I'm going to mess up. But, I still, Jesus hopefully will still take me. It's still a faith endeavor. Like you're still applying the faith that God has given you. But there is also in that is a faith understanding of this is who I am before God.
Yeah.
And this is my relationship with God. You can make a judgment about yourself.
Yeah.
To be able to help you be a living sacrifice, because as you're saying, if you think it's a living sacrifice but it's dead, that's not gonna help. You might be thinking, I'm giving God my all. Do you know what I mean? I came on Sunday. I've not missed a week. Some people I don't see them here. I'm here every week, and that may be the thing that you're like, God, I'm sacrificing for you, and God's like, that's like 10%.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about tithe.
Or it's not even, or maybe it's even less than 10%.
Yeah, like that's
2 hours on a Sunday.
That's barely anything out of the amount of time that you have available to you. So that the idea of being able to really look at yourself and say, where am I in my life of, however you want to read it, in my life of sacrifice, or is my sacrifice something that's living, as we talked about, or am I sacrificing things that I may see as precious, things that may have life to me, or however, all the different meanings that living sacrifice can have.
Yeah.
Am I doing that to a point where I could say Jesus is the most important thing in my life? Or am I mailing it in? Or am I trying, but like I'm not committing 100%? It's that idea of like being able to look at yourself and say, no, if I'm being real, like this is where I'm at in faith. Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that you can look at yourself soberly,
judgment,
in faith, like God can give you the faith to say, no, I am giving my all to God, or no, I need to pull my bootstraps a bit.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that came to mind when we talk about living sacrifice is Abraham's sacrifice of his son. Yeah. So because he doesn't actually kill him, so it's a living sacrifice. Yeah. But according to Hebrews 11, he as far as Abraham was concerned, the boy was dead.
Yeah. He's dead in his heart.
The boy was dead.
Yeah.
And he believed that God would raise him, and of course he had him, so to speak, back to life. So that's, I think, a picture of living sacrifice. But what God said to Abraham is, I want you to sacrifice your son. And then he said, Isaac, whom you love.
Yeah, because not the other one.
Because if you had said, I want to sacrifice your son, full stop, Ishmael would have been gone.
The same day.
No question about it.
Hey, Ishmael, you come back, come here, bring your bows as well.
Dead. Yeah. But God made sure that he said, the one you is made the name and the one you love. Because a living sacrifice is always going to be this, going to have a cost to how we do it.
You're going to think, as a sacrifice is, and a living sacrifice, I don't really want to do that.
No, I don't want to do that. This is too precious for me. But that's what I think Christianity is about. The good thing is, I don't know if we're going to get to this, but the good thing is that it's not without reward. Yeah. And I know a lot of people think, no, I just follow Jesus. I don't Jesus is money. I don't just his health. I just follow just because, But no, every one of us come to Jesus with needs. Yeah. And one of the biggest needs we want is to avoid being judged and being separated from him eternally. It's a need. Yeah. He comes and meets that need. And so we come to him. And similarly, when we continue to live this sacrificial life, there is a reward for it.
Yeah.
There's a benefit for it. This is a controversial thing sometimes to say, but it is. There is a reward for it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that is like. There's always a level of duality.
Yes.
And what it reminds me of is what Mum is part of what Mum preached, which I've listened to that so many times.
Gone back on it.
That was so. There's so much stuff in there. I'm just like, this is incredible stuff that she's actually just saying. I don't know what it is. I hope everyone got out of that what is there.
Yeah.
But part of what she says is that Jesus knew when he asked the disciples, "What do you think of this situation?" He's already aware that everything's provided for. So even in what we're talking about here of how Jesus will come to you and say, "You got to leave your dad."
Yeah.
Or you might not have the nice house and the nice job that you dream of. I can't remember what the other one was. But he lays out all this stuff, and it can be like, my gosh, Jesus, am I going to have anything? Like, is it just you and that's it? And like, that's enough, but is that really it?
Yeah.
And Jesus will be like, come on, that's all he'll say, come on. But we don't know that past that, come on.
Yes.
Jesus is like, cool, now that you've shown me where you're at, let me show you all the blessing that I have for you.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of us who have made decisions like that can attest to that reality.
And this is the Abraham story again.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
okay, you're going to sacrifice the son whom you love, Isaac. And then, okay, you take the son and you're sort of weeping in your heart and all this thing. How am I going to explain this to Sarah when I'm getting back home? I went to the mountain and killed the boy and burnt him, But as you're about to sacrifice, you hear a voice that says, no, don't do that. There's actually something else that you're going to take the place. And of course, that's partly figurative of Jesus. But then he has the son back to life.
Yeah.
But he must have him now in a very different context to the context he had him before.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the approach to to Isaac has changed completely.
Yeah.
Because he has died and has been raised. Now God takes number one space rather than Isaac. So sometimes the promises of God can be so strong in our minds, in our hearts, that they can compete with the promise.
Yeah, exactly. That's really good. Yeah,
and
exactly.
in Abraham's story, God readjusts the priorities. What Jesus is calling us to do here is always been the call of anyone who ever wanted to follow Jesus, God, whether it's in the Old Testament or in the New Testament. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's all I had.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. Anything else that you want to talk about or add in?
No, I just think that this is some stuff that we need to reflect on, meditate on more often than not, especially because, and I hesitate to say this, but I'll say it, seeker-friendly kind of approach is very appealing. Because then you can have, church of thousands and all these things, and there's no, you're trying to avoid talking about purity, living right, and all this sort of giving sacrificially and all these things yourself and living sacrificially. We're just trying to avoid all of that, and we make it as if Jesus is in employment.
Yeah.
To supply us with the best car, the best wife, the best house, and all these things. Now, I believe in the best life, because he says, I've come to give you life and that more abundantly. So I believe in a good life that Jesus wants to give us that. But we can't get to the good life without having a check of our priorities.
Yeah.
No, we can't. Yeah, that's really my point. It's that this needs to be something that we go back to, maybe even daily or weekly, reassess, sober judgment, isn't it? That's the phrase in Romans 15, Romans 12. Sit down and ask yourself, what's going on in my life?
Yeah.
Look at the time expenditure. We've got 24 hours a day. I think about how much of that time Yeah, is Facebook. How much of that time is Instagram or phone or WhatsApp or all these different things that we do? How much of that time is work? How much of that time is sleep? Just have a sober discussion with yourself, and I think there's much more that God has for us.
Yeah.
But we got to meet the standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It ain't gonna bring the standard down to let us in. So.
And I think also for me, it's like if you, as you were saying, if something's important to you, you make time for it.
You will.
So like when me and Mercy were dating,
Yeah,
and it was long distance.
yeah,
I had a car. It was a good car.
Yeah.
I knew that I could drive this car when I needed to drive it.
yeah.
Now I had a mileage limit. I may have gone over it, but I dealt with that.
That's
But
also understandable.
I made impulsive decisions
Yeah,
to go and spend time with Mercy.
yeah.
And even though the drive was 2.5 hours one way, if I had an opportunity to spend 2 to 3 hours in person with her, maybe even an hour and a half,
Yeah, you made the
and I
decision
was
to
free.
drive.
Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't have stuff
totally
on.
hear you.
I'd be gone. I'd be gone in a heartbeat.
hear you.
Especially if it was a weekend, I'd be gone,
Yeah.
or whatever the option is.
Yeah,
And I think for me, part of the sober judgment is also how can I pursue God in a passionate way?
yes.
Because part of it as well isn't just like isn't the giving begrudgingly. It's like, here's my living sacrifice, Jesus. Like, fine, Monday morning, I don't want to go to work, but I'm a living sacrifice. There's an attitude of presenting it, isn't it? Like Cain and Abel is presenting, like giving him the best of your living sacrifice.
Yes.
And so that is another idea that I'm thinking of in my own head and life, is how do I, in my day, in my week, give myself to God in a way that has that heart behind it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's kind of the last bit.
That's very good. That and I think in the things that God is speaking to us as a church, this is going to be significant. How is the reality of God in my life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. For joining us live. If you're listening on the podcast, I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know, leave a review. Let us know what you thought. If you have different thoughts, we'd be happy to engage. And if there's anything that you want us to chat through, let us know. But otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you to Dr. Ezekiel Shiremba for joining us this evening for the live recording. And we'll see you next time. Hope you have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.